Hi, it's Nicola at Forever Young Autobiographies and welcome. Today we're talking about visual writing, how to become a visual storyteller with visual writing techniques. And I have a free gift for you, so stay with me to the end. It's all to help you start writing your autobiography, memoir, biography or life story project. If you're new here, a little bit of background about Forever Young Autobiographies. It's the place where we learn to write life stories for family and friends so that unique memories can live on. And I'd love for you to follow, subscribe and like the show. Now, visual writing. First up, I've got a little story for you. My son, he just turned 4 the other day and he got some Lego as a gift. What boy doesn't love Lego? He plays with it for hours. He's coming up with all kinds of little abstract creations and brings them to me. And he shows me what he's created and he tells me through stories. And this kind of got me thinking, this is really similar to what we do when we're writing. We use words instead of building blocks to bridge that gap between our memories and our reader's imagination. But how do we do this visually? How do we do it really well without going crazy and without writing a massive book? Well, I've got some ideas for you today and I'm going to kick that off with number 1 is to think about settings. If we're thinking about old silent movies, they didn't have the luxury of dialogue. They relied on visual cues, and a foundational one of this is to set the scene. Visual writers will always describe the setting. Now you might be thinking, what? I don't know what settings I could describe. This isn't like a movie or some made up fiction, but there's so many settings you could be describing in your writing. For example, you've got things like your home, you've got your street, your neighborhood, town, perhaps your school, workplace. You can even describe the era that you were living in, like the decade. Decades have almost like their own character. So there's some awesome visual writing suggestions for settings. Moving along to visual writing tip number 2, and that is characters. Again, you might be going, this isn't a fiction book. What characters have I got? If you're writing an autobiography yourself, you might be a character. But if you think about it, your parents are characters in your writing, your siblings, your other family members, friends, workmates. There's lots you could be describing. And I don't mean you need to write pages and pages on each person. No, just a couple of sentences or even just a few key words is enough to help your reader imagine the person you're talking about visually in their imagination. So things you can address or describe when you're doing a character. You could describe their appearance, their dress, their habits, even their speech. They might have an accent. And thinking about settings, where does this person normally found? What's their natural habitat? You can describe their settings. These are all great ways to write visually. So remember, characters. Moving on to our third point, and that is drama, or it's the action that takes place. It's usually your key memories. So you might be thinking, oh, okay, I just write it all down and I tell people what happened. No, you really need to show people what happened. Show, don't tell, as the saying goes. For example, you might be writing about finishing your final exams at high school and how stressed you were. Instead of saying, I was so exhausted and I was so stressed, you could use a story to illustrate this, to give your reader a deeper understanding and to show them the effects of this stress. Instead of writing, I was really stressed, you could say, for example, during my final exams, I slept walk at night. One night, my father found me trying to climb over the front veranda while I was reciting my mathematics formulas. Now, this story shows how the exam stress was affecting you and your family, and it gives the reader a real deep understanding and a real sense of what you were going through. So that's tip number 3, drama. Describing visually the drama that goes on in your life. And finally, I want to talk to you about adding visual details. And when I talk about writing details, often I'm talking about factual details, but in this case, it's visual details. Now, there's lots of different ways you could do this. I'll just give you a few examples. Number 1 is to appeal in your writing to visual senses, so the 5 senses. Do that, that's a great way to connect with your reader visually. Another way is short snippets or flashbacks that create or paint another scene or character. That's a great way to do visual writing. And finally, we have symbolism, so details that are symbols. Now this is a whole another chapter in itself, but for example, we see this all the time in movies, but there's things like, example would be an open or a shut door, the beginning or end of opportunity. Then there's a rising and the setting of the sun. There's another symbolism, starting of a new opportunity again. And finally, there's things like colours. Colours have traditionally associated with different meanings, and you can use those to great visual effect in your writing. Ones that pop to mind is red being the symbol of love and white being the symbol of peace or hope. So there you go, there's some amazing secrets on how to write visually for your book. And to recap, we kicked it off with settings and then writing visually for your characters, also your key memories or the plot, the drama, and finally details, adding visual details. Now, I just really hope all of this demystifies visual writing and can give you some really great ideas to put into your writing toolbox so you always have something to write visually about. If you want a lot more detail on this topic, head over to my website, foreveryoungautobiographies.com/visual writing, and you'll find a lot more extra information, and there's links to helpful resources there as well. So go on and check it out. While you're at the website, also leave me a comment. What visual writing techniques are you going to give a try, or what are your favourites? Even send me an example of something that you love, or maybe you're not quite sure on how to finish it up. Let me know, I'd love to take a read. Now, the free gift I mentioned was the Structure Success video training. You can sign up for that over at the website or here. It's basically some key exercises which I hold your hand through, and we come up with key memories and that we put into a chapter structure, a chapter outline, so you can get started on your writing or refine that motivation or that pathway to get writing and finish writing your book. So please sign up for that. I think it's a really great resource and it's completely free. Now I'll be back again really soon with another writing topic. So I'd love it if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. And until then, happy writing.